What's up, Pops?
Oh, look who's there.
Love it. All right, cool. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining.
So I can have my water here at least.
What are you eating? I couldn't tell. It's definitely not ice cream, and I don't eat ice cream at this time.
No, it's oatmeal. I'm having a late breakfast. A really late breakfast.
In terms of your morning routine, do you have anything to go when you first start, or do you start pretty late in terms of your consumption of food? I'm always curious about this.
No, I've learned to really have a big breakfast now, like every single day. So no, my breakfast is pretty big. That's going to be a problem when people call on the phone. My breakfast is usually pretty robust. I always eggs. I think I go through, Carla and I go through probably 2 cartons of eggs now every 3 days. No, I'm exaggerating. 2 cartons of eggs a week. 2 cartons of eggs a week, at least. Yeah. So eggs.
Yeah, that's serious.
All the big stuff. Yeah. So today I'm in a rush because I'm talking to you, but normally I would sit down, have a nice breakfast after the run. But
so sorry to take you away from your eggs.
It's all right. It won't be the first thing you've taken me away from. So not a bad thing.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining. Give it like 1 or 2 more minutes. You just joined.
How do you see me on Instagram, by the way? You good? Are you good?
I mean, are you fishing for compliments or just
from you? If I can get a compliment from you, that'd be huge.
I think the artwork is more impressive than the face, but it still looks good.
That's low. It's low.
For you guys who are just joining, Frankie was catching me up. This is his wife's mother that made this piece. She's 94 years old, you said?
Yeah.
94?
Yeah. 94. Olga Duenas. If you guys look her up on Instagram, you'll be blown away that she's 94 years old and still does this stuff. She doesn't even like talking about her age because the truth is that she probably looks younger than a 60-year-old. But the lines and the creativity and the color and all the patterns and the things she comes up with is just, it's incredible. She'll do one of these once a week, which is pretty darn cool.
I have no idea how it's obscene that it just takes a couple of days to be able to make that.
Yeah, no, and she does it in her house and some big pieces. I mean, you can see the full piece there, but this one is fairly large. Some cool stuff. She was supposed to have a gallery opening or show right before this whole COVID thing started over in Ecuador, and it all went south. But
yeah.
But yeah.
All right, man.
How you been, Guillermo? Man, you good?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I would say it's been a minute, but we've been kept in pretty close contact more recently. And shout out to the Belen team. Heard the workout yesterday was gnarly and nuts. Yeah. Frankie's in a good mood for a reason. When things aren't going well. He's not.
I think Carla ends up paying the price in a way because I come home and she's like, "How was practice?" I'm like, well, yesterday I didn't want to go to sleep. That's how good of a practice we had. So I enjoyed the kids' performance yesterday. That was fun. And
yeah, we know Frankie has trouble going to sleep in the first place. So
that's correct.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, let's get into it. I'm so pumped for today. Obviously, Frankie, you and I go way back, but I think there's a lot to uncover that.
You're not live on LinkedIn.
Okay. That both saying not live.
Tell her I say hi. Tell her I say hi, by the way.
That is the wonderful girlfriend giving Frankie a shout out. The room. Apparently we're not live on LinkedIn, but we'll have to deal. It says we're live. All right.
Yeah, it says we're live.
Yeah. Anyways, so Frankie and I obviously go way back since I was like 12 years old, I guess. In my early years of matriculation. And I think, this is part of my health habits series and leading into the very, very last week. Next week, we're going to go into the spiritual health habits. The whole reason why I do this is we're in a weird state globally. I think more important than ever, it's important to understand how to build resilience through our lives, through the different health means, whether that's mental, physical, understanding our biology, spiritual. And we're wrapping up appropriately speaking with Frankie today on the physical aspect and really focusing on the idea of what it means to be active. And Frankie's really embodied that throughout his entire life and really leading that kind of wave through Miami. I think the notion of the energy you've brought to your ethos really pervades throughout the city, which is why I'm so excited to speak. Beyond just the idea of our personal relationship on you running the program that I belonged to for 7 years being at Belen. And so I think that consistent effort you promote is so critical and important to the wellness of such a massive community in Miami. What's up, Carla? So let's just start like really simply, like base level. You have a couple of job titles. What are they?
Wait, so I'm gonna back up because before we get into that stuff, I have to acknowledge Guillermo here, and not just like usual formal, hey, thanks for inviting me kind of thing. I'm going to back up a little further. Guillermo is responsible for some of the fire that I still have in coaching. I watched him as a sixth grader, basically, shaking hands with all the coaches, disciplined, determined, always motivated to listen and to be a better runner, and I have to also apologize because I wasn't the best coach back then. Still learning, but nonetheless, Guillermo's actually the part of the first state championship that I coached, and not just part of it, but like the actual. If you had to draw or put your hands around some intangible spirit, I think Guillermo was that state championship spirit. He fell across the finish line, crawled across the finish line. Look this up on YouTube. It's one of the coolest pre-cell phone videos you're gonna ever see because you can't really tell what's going on, but you hear tons of screaming. He basically crawls his way to the finish line, and because he does so, we win the first state championship of now 11 at total for the school. But he made it to Sports Illustrated. Back then, it was a printed edition. I don't know if Sports Illustrated still gets printed, but it was a printed edition because it was such an inspiring story. But no, in all seriousness, I can look back at Guillermo and say that I'm not just proud of what he did back when he was in high school, but where Guillermo is now in life. Not too long ago, he was showing our kids around his workplace, and that was a really neat experience to see it all come full circle. And that's all we do as coaches or as hopefully, friends is want to see each other succeed. And Guillermo is definitely one of those. So before we start this thing, I had to recognize Guillermo's talents and Guillermo's just the fire he left in me. So just wanted to
appreciate
share that. So.
All right, well, we can
stop this. Whole family. Wait, I'm gonna finish one more thing. And to his whole family, because hopefully they're watching. Hopefully, the family, you guys have raised an amazing kid. So, thank you.
All right. Well, this live conversation's over. Thanks so much for joining. Appreciate it. No, man, I think a lot starts with you as well. A lot starts with the family. Shout out to mom and dad for sure. And
we're sorry, Guillermo. I'm being told that we're on Instagram and on. Oh, okay. Yeah, but I can't look at both. They want me to look at both cameras. It'll be a little hard.
He's only one person. So yeah, I appreciate those sentiments so much. And a large part of what I've become as a person and trying to continue to grow as really starts first with the experience that I had with you and Belen, obviously, and the inspiring notion of how you've approached your own personal life with everything that you've really tried to tackle. And so I definitely want to start with that. I want to start with the idea of you don't just do one thing. I think the most impressive part of your existence is the multiple hats that you wear. So why don't we start there in terms of the conversation? What would you even call the multiple job titles you have? Like very, very simply, what are the 3-4 things that you do focus on?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably going to use this statement a lot, but pre-COVID, hoping some things return. But if you were talking to me a few weeks prior to COVID, I'd tell you I'm the chief running officer at Lifetime Fitness, which is just a fancy title for someone that is in charge of the Miami Marathon, as well as a bunch of other running events in South Florida. And in addition to that, I'm constantly promoting things for Lifetime, which is a health club operator that purchased the rights to the Miami Marathon from me as one of the creators a few years back. So I technically worked for Lifetime prior to the pandemic, and that was my title, my technical title. In addition to that, I am the co-founder and I guess the operator of the largest network of run clubs here in South Florida, arguably one of the largest in the country, and some say the world, prior to COVID, where we would meet with 400 or 500 people on a regular basis on a Tuesday night, and then you'd add that up with all the other run club spots we had. We had 8, or we still have the 8. You're close to 1,000 runners that were coming through, our sort of program. Besides that, I also operate several other races that I'm hired by several organizations to promote and produce. Some 4,000 or 5,000 person races that are out there. So all in all, I'm probably touching, I don't know, about 15, 16 races a year here in South Florida. And then the other side of me is high school cross country coach, which I wish I would start with that first, but that's not my primary, way of making a living. But it certainly gives me a whole lot of life. And that is I'm the Belen cross country coach now, entering I think it's the 18th year of coaching at the program. And one other title, I think you put it in the notes, worth noting, is I'm the Nike Southeast Run Club coach. And I'm proud to have been that now for the better part of at least the last 5 or 6 years. So
yeah, so that's a good point. Like you running the 8 run clubs is somewhat different than you actually being hired by Nike to be the coach of the Southeast. No, I guess there's some parallel and ancillary kind of commitments there. But so that's a lot, and you're covering so much ground. I think there's a lot of continuity with everything that you do. Whether it's running races, running a team that runs races, being that associated coach to a sizable portion of the U.S. when it comes down to thinking about an active and running lifestyle. From all of this kind of encapsulated for Frankie, what is your why? Like, why do you do all these things?
Look, I think that there's different points in time where I've answered that a little differently, and I think right now I'm going to answer it this way. I was about maybe 13 years old, and maybe even a little younger, probably about 11 years old, and I just randomly wrote something down, showed it to my parents. I was in my house. I don't know, one of those weird days where you're just home, and it was an essay, and I wish I still had it, but I reflected on this the other day because I was out running, just thinking a lot about what's going on with COVID and whatnot. And it was simply an essay about encouraging people to be healthy. And something in that essay, and it was just a random essay, by the way, not a school assignment, it was just something I just decided to write, was basically a line that, hey, what state of health will you have when you get sick? Not if you get sick, but when you get sick. And I think to that, and that's what I was thinking a lot as a young person, that how can I be part of making people healthy so that when the deterioration of age hits you, when your health is challenged, how you react to that. And I remember putting in there something to the effect of, what if some of the great people that we've had in history had not taken care of themselves? What may have not transpired. And I don't think I was that mature back then to say that I had it all figured out and I predicted COVID, but that was the beginning of me getting this idea in my mind that I wanted to be around the promotion of health and fitness and whatnot. I still believe that a lot of answers to our problems lie in the health and fitness world. And then the second part of it, honestly, is that I felt that everyone at least when I went to PE class, when I was in school, everyone else played something with basketball or football, and there was very few people that decided to run around the schoolyard for fun. And I thought, why not? And I just started, taking that approach to life, where I would say, all right, there's 50 kids choosing this. Why isn't anybody choosing this? And I would choose, something as awkward as maybe running was, 20, 30 years ago or 30 years ago. So those are two things that sort of planted the seed to some of the things that I do now. Along the way, I also ran into the fact that I think I have enough charisma. I'm not giving myself all this credit, but I do think I have enough charisma to bring crowds together. And I realized that in a Halloween haunted house, I realized that I had this thing.
A moment of clarity in a haunted house.
Yeah, no, haunted house I created in front of my parents' house. Like, if I can organize these kinds of things and bring crowds together for something fun and help them sort of enjoy their life a little bit, I want to do that in life. And so I mixed event passion, or a passion for events, with this passion for health and fitness, and coupled with the fact that I think I'm blessed with a lot of energy. I don't need a lot of pillow time, but that I guess has led me to where I'm at now.
Yes, I mean, I think to your point on galvanizing energy and a lot of people together, the one thing that's always struck me, whether I was somebody on your team or even now, or even just watching from afar, you leading a crowd, marathon or run clubs that I've participated in, is a state of conviction that you have around that associated purpose. And I think it helps that started at such a young potential age. And I want to start there because I don't want that to be the solitary statement in respect of your journey. I do think that so much relates to the way that we grew up and kind of our environment. To that point, your family, your mom and dad, how did you grow up in the first place? Were they always pushing you to be outside? I'm sure you were absolutely asinine and crazy as a kid. What was that like? Were they just always pushing you out, and that kind of instilled the notion of just like Frankie's just going to be running around all the time?
Look, I have to apologize to Carla because she has dealt with that, that sort of inability to sit still for too long. And now I'm seeing it in my daughter. Like, and I know toddlers are supposed to be active, but this girl also doesn't love to sleep. She loves to be outside. It's pretty, scary, but I'm watching myself in her. So,
not to interrupt you, but You're giving Stage and my girlfriend massive anxiety right now because she's experiencing the same exact thing in me and not being able to sit still. And that's a common serious discussion that we have. And Stasia, this is just the manifestation of what the future looks like. Yeah, keep going.
That's not a bad thing, but I mean, for some it might be. But no, my parents were pretty active as well. I mean, they're still active. My dad took me on my first run when I was 10 years old. So he is still going to practice and watching and helping me whenever he can with the high school kids. My mom is still running and walking around the block. So I've grown up around that. I mean, they were very hardworking people, and luckily they've been able to sort of slow down a little bit with work as far as that's concerned. But there's still this level of activity that I think they passed on to me, and I'm always telling parents that your kids are going to be you. I mean, to a certain extent, for the most part, they're going to be you. I mean, I see your dad and mom riding bike, and there's no surprise to me that that you're as active as you are, out there exercising. And now I think we have a whole new generation of kids that have grown up sitting in a stroller, in a running stroller, jogging stroller. So those are good examples, and I hope there's a lot more parents out there, especially during this time, taking the chance to be good examples. So
I think part of what I experienced being on your team, and we lived in a very different world, obviously, when I was matriculating as a student when I was 13, whatever years old, up until I graduated compared to now. The team was smaller. It was a bit of a different kind of situation. You were just starting off your career largely in coaching, and I think what a lot of the kids on the team right now probably don't fully realize is the extent of how much you did. Frankie would pick me up sometimes from my house on the weekends to go to practice, or after practice from school and take me back home, because we both lived on Miami Beach, pick me up in the Ford pickup truck. And more often than not, we would run an errand before you drop me off at home. We would talk about everything within the world, whether it was to do with running or anything else that was going on. And obviously learned lots of lessons, but, Arthur and Frank would come to a laundromat and he would own a gumball machine at one of these laundromats and see how many quarters he made and fill it back up and stuff. Do you still own any of those, by the way? Like, there's no way you have the time to pick those things up.
I sold most of them, to the individual business owners. I had about 100 and change, up until a few years ago. That was like my secret business. I would always just
your cash cow
on the side. Yeah, I would do that on the side, collecting quarters. I still have, I don't know how many quarters in a big, in a big jar, but that was a lot of fun for sure. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about business. I also learned that I wanted to work for, I hate to say it like this, but for myself.
Right. Yeah, I think, and so my point within mentioning that is you've really been this kind of serial entrepreneur since the get-go. And to that, I want to talk a little bit about what I would argue is one of your main jobs, but a function of that main job is the creation of the Miami Marathon. So just some facts for people that aren't as aware of like what the Miami Marathon really entails. The first race went down, I think, Frankie, 2003?
The first race was 2003. That's correct. Yeah.
First 2003. So I remember volunteering. At this point, the marathon has, I think, like around 20,000 runners a year from 80 countries represented. That's truly global, right? There's just like just over 200 countries in the world. So nearly half the world is represented in any given Miami Marathon race, which is incredibly international, and goes down in January or February. So as cold as it gets in Miami, so probably 70 degrees at the gun. But here's what is wild. I want to dig into a little bit. And I've never really had this perspective until recently, but you started coaching high school cross country at Belen in 2002, right?
Correct.
So that's a year before the founding of the Miami Marathon. And when you started coaching Belen, I think, like, if I did the math correctly, from when you graduated from school to then, you started coaching at Belen when you were 23 years old as a head coach?
No, even earlier. It was earlier than that. I'm 41 right now. So what's 41, 18 years as the head coach. So we're looking at basically I was 21 and change, 22 and change.
So you
and don't forget that Bark had me driving you guys as a sort of, well, not you guys, but driving the bus on during the summer as the summer coach for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I was sort of the assistant coach, but I was coaching also the middle school as well. So I was also doing track at FIU. I don't know if you remember that, but I was a walk-on at FIU, trying to do high jump and the 800. So I've just basically been coaching my whole life. Yeah.
So, but at that age, so if I did the math correctly, then you were 22 when you founded the Miami Marathon.
I think that's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That sounds
so.
Right.
If you think about this now international race at that age, I think a lot of kids are looking for, like, where's the next party coming from? Where's the next beer? Where's the next girl or guy, what have you? And here you are founding the Miami Marathon. What the hell was that like in the first experience in doing so? From where, for like that first initial inaugural race, in the preparation and it actually going down, being that age and being in charge of so much?
I was lucky enough that I had two partners that had tried to put this thing together a few years prior to that. So there was a lot of leaning on them. I give them a lot of credit. Robert and Gabby are, two folks that were part of Miami's, the inaugural Miami Marathon, and then so many after that. So I can't take all the credit by myself, but I will say,
were they teenagers like you?
No, they were actually 10 years older than me.
Okay.
They were a husband and wife. They're a husband and wife couple. Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I was nervous as heck. I I had gone from producing a small 5K that I had organized out over on South Beach, and another one near my house and in Lakes of the Meadows. And I realized, hey, you know what, this is a big jump. There's no question. I went from driving a dinghy to driving a cruise ship, and that was certainly daunting. But I mean, I look back on it, and my personality fit what entails in the organization of a marathon. It's a little bit of everything. And that's been my personality forever. I know a little bit about a lot of different things. And that's what the race ended up being. And then that first year wasn't as complicated as it is now with, all these bells and whistles that the events have become. But that first year was certainly quite the load. Couldn't have done it by myself. I had a lot of family help, and we had, like I said, I had two partners that engaged in a number of things that I had no idea about. And so that can look back at, it was definitely learning how to change the, like they say, change the tire as the car is moving, because it all came together fairly quick. But with the help of a lot of elected officials that I'm friends with, and friends and family, we made it happen that first year. It definitely was a team effort.
Was there something during the times that was a signal to you that this was an opportunity to take advantage of, or was it something that was more creative out of thin air? Like, Miami doesn't have a marathon, like, let's start it. What was the catalyst really with creation of it in 2003?
I'm not gonna like that story. I think I've told it so many times, but it has something to do with Rudy Garcia Tolson. But and I'll let people look for that story because it's everywhere. So, but because I think what's more interesting, from seeing that need in the Miami space necessarily, or in this market, is the minute that we came out with this idea that we wanted to try to put this on, there were so many people along the way that were like, you can't pull this off. And it's that old story, the more that they would tell you that you couldn't do this, the more you wanted to do it. And there was several people in the running community, some of which that have moved on, others that are still around, and now they're close to us. But a lot of folks started to say no. And like they say, I see it now with my daughter, the more they tell you you can't do something, the more you want to do it. That first meeting with the police department, where they kind of laughed at the fact that we wanted to close 26.2 miles of roads. That was awesome. I loved it. This is great. This is what I want to hear. I want to hear more no's. So that was one. And then the second thing is the minute, and then you'll find this, to people watching, is anytime that you have a good idea, it's a good idea when 2 or 3 people try immediately to raise their hand and say, well, wait a minute, I had that idea too. And they try to jump in front of you. There was 2 such ideas the 2 such people that tried to do that. And I've never really, disclosed this stuff, but with you got it out of me on this one. There's one gentleman who's actually still sitting on MiamiMarathon.com.
The URL.
Yeah, his intention is to produce it. So that's why the first race was called the MiamiTropicalMarathon.com. Stupid of us not to have bought it, or stupid of us not to have. And we approached him, and he had in his mind he was going to organize it himself. And then there was another group out of Washington, D.C. I believe they were called like O2 Group or something. They all of a sudden showed up in Miami, and they were applying for permits, and they were trying to do. So all of a sudden, the year that we decided to do this, 2 other groups show up. So that put us even more in motion. So that's when you've got something that's cooking.
Good idea.
Yeah,
incredible. Let's shift, because I want to get to a lot of what's you've been passionate about as well for so many years, not from a financial incentive perspective, but I think largely in regards to giving back and largely what's driven you, which is coaching. So you have been coaching at both of our alma maters, Belen Jesuit, which is an all guys Catholic school, from 6th to 12th grade in Miami since 2002. So you mentioned you were like 21 when you first started coaching, which is absolutely insane. Frankie, since he started coaching, the team's won 10 state championships. That's just astounding in whatever you're doing, one alone. And I, being on the team that won the first with him, the state of difficulty with that is ridiculous no matter what you're doing. And when we started, we were really a ragtag bunch, but now I think the team is probably, any given year nowadays, it's like 40 to 50, 60 kids in total, right?
Yeah, we got 59 kids on roster this year.
So ridiculous and so beautiful to see. So kids are flocking to join the team. Why do you think that is in the first place? Is it just because of the success and the pedigree? Is there something else you feel like is really attractive to have all these kids join the team that you've created?
I mean, we knew that, and the coaches that are part of our team, fortunate enough to have the best assistant coaches, in the country. Early on, we knew that if we can put all the flyers in the world and the school and encourage kids to do something healthy and go down that path, but at the end of the day, if you're not winning, it's hard to recruit kids to come run. And by the way, I got to be careful there saying that we recruit kids outside of Belen, because that isn't the way we build our team.
Of course, yeah.
But to get kids from other sports, let's say, or just get kids to do something in school isn't easy. But I think the minute that we started winning some state championships, everyone was, wanted to be a part of that, wanted to know what that feels like, wanted to have something, of their own to lay claim to. So that made it a little easier, certainly. And then along the way, I think, I was talking to a dad today who was thinking of taking his son from school and just sees something special in what we do and what running is, at least at our school. And they hung in. They've kept their son through the last 7 years at Belen. So
yeah. Yeah, I remember like walking the hallways and you approaching me and just asking like, why aren't you running on the team? Like, why wouldn't you consider it? Coming from a place where I was just so solidly and fundamentally in the belief that I was going to become a professional baseball player. Like there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that this was going to happen for me. And then you screwed it all up, and I started becoming successful at cross country.
But you know what? I will say, because this does apply to adults, and I think it applies to everyone right now. If there is one sport that I think is so basic to human, function, it's running, and that sport is something that and it's one of the reasons why I enjoy it so much. And it's not that I'm some obsessed, hobbyist or whatever they want to call it over something that, like running, but it's just because I feel like it's the most open of all sports. You don't need a lot of means. You don't need a whole lot. And this obviously, this is cliche. A lot of people have heard this, but I want to reemphasize this because it's why I turned to it. I ran the bench in 6th grade as a basketball player. And I'll never forget that I wasn't allowed to play. I don't say allowed to play, but I wasn't as good as the other players, in part because I wasn't tall enough at that age. Mm-hmm. There's some exceptions out there. You're quick, and I'm sure you can dribble around people, but let's face it, there's limitations in certain other sports. In running, you almost have this limitless possibility to make yourself as good as you want to be. And I loved that. I loved the fact that I had that freedom to be as fast as I could be in as a distance runner. And a lot of folks don't understand that. They, especially some, older folks say, I'm better at short distance and this and that. Well, I think we can all train ourselves to be, endurance athletes. Is everyone going to make it to the Olympics? No, but that's part of what's really cool about it, that nobody can tell you no because of your limitations or your social status or your inability to pay for a league or whatnot. It is pretty open to everyone. So that's my soapbox.
No, I think the point is important. The barrier to entry is I wouldn't even say it's minimal. There's no barrier to entry, right? You just need shoes and hopefully some shorts, and that's it. There's no skill involved in terms of like heightened motor function with the ball, and in terms of the incorporation of others. And I want to use this as kind of the segue into the running community that you've really built up in Miami, and then kind of finish this off and talking about the common thread of an active lifestyle. But I think the profound beauty in running is that it's innately as independent as you want it to be. So it's my form of de-stressing. It's my form of therapy. Largely, I'm not saying it should be everybody's form of therapy, but it's the means for how I'm able to introspect and get outside of everything else that is happening and find mindfulness and gratitude in the world. But in the same way, there's nothing like going on a long run with a number of people or even just one other person, and the sense of community around, what makes humans human, that state of activity and just putting one leg in front of the other is so crucial. And so to this, you've built up some of the largest run clubs in the US. I don't know how many is able to gather 600 runners in one place at a time. 8 clubs. I think I saw that there's 6,000 people that have liked the associated pages of Run Miami on Facebook, for instance. What prompted the creation of that? Is it a bit of the same of why you started coaching at Belen and as well as the marathon? You said you felt like there was a moment in time here that we need to capture Miami to really galvanize people around the idea of this activity.
Look, the one thing I've left out of this conversation so far is that I love Miami. I mean, I'm wearing this shirt that's probably about 7 years old, because I refuse to throw away any. There you go. You got one too. Yep, you got that one at South Beach Run Club. That's pretty cool.
This is one of the OG shirts. Yeah.
There you go.
I should have worn this.
I hate to throw anything away that says Miami, but I have a love for my community, and I think that's important. Not from a charitable standpoint, not to show, hey, everyone needs to love their community. It's because I think everyone has an innate responsibility to show love to where they live, so that they can care more for it and they can feel more connected to it. And I think in the end, that makes you a happier person. Mm-hmm. And so rather than sit here and talk about all the bad things Miami has, which we know it has its fair share, I chose to do something that was free, open to anyone, and with the help of some corporate partners, able to do it for a sustained period of time, consistently. Nike being that one first partner with Baptist Health, and a little running store, or a little a little sportswear store in South Beach that believed in this. We built a community, and I shouldn't say we built it. We brought a community together, because communities are here. It's how you bring them together that matters. So that's why we started this. And I didn't think it was going to become the largest in the country or the world, but I did have a sense that it was something unique, something different, something social, something that people needed. We were talking a few seconds ago about how democratic running is, right? That it's not the party, but how democratic in terms of how open it is to everyone. And the other day I was reminded that we have a runner at I'm not going to say which run club, who is homeless, and this runner comes every week to run club. That shows you the broad spectrum of the running community. But to know that I started something that at least gives that person something to do that doesn't cost any money that particular night is awesome. It's a great feeling. Not only is it a great feeling for me, but I think it's a and I'm watching this now with COVID, the amount of people saying, hey, we miss gathering and this and that. But it's, I think, a great feeling for others that have started their own run clubs and their own run groups. I met my wife because she went and wanted to start her own. So I think there's a satisfaction that people should get, not just from what they do, but from what they inspire others to carry on and do on their own. And that's been pretty neat to see here as well.
Of course. Yeah. I want to be conscious of time. Everybody's been, we were 40 minutes here, but I think there's one last thing that I want to ensure that we talk about within the world of running, living an active lifestyle as it relates to today, because as you mentioned, like, you have 8 run clubs in South Florida, but not all of them are meeting in person right now, and probably shouldn't be as well. And so there's this there's this virtual nature. how are you telling your friends, those that belong to the running community, like how are you thinking about your state of an active lifestyle in the world that we live in COVID today? And why do you think it's so important?
Look, I think before this all went down, I think there was a number of people that would look at someone's social post and say, oh my God, so-and-so is saying, that they ran around the world today, big deal. They look at their time, their pace. Now more than ever, I'm telling people to do that, because I think there needs to be this reminder that we're not alone in the things we enjoy doing. And then we also have a responsibility to inspire people to stay healthy and get healthy. So that would be one thing I would encourage people to help get us through this, so that when we do end up on the other side of this, that not only are people healthy, but we can almost pick up where we left off, right? Like
right.
We're still connected. That's one thing. So I would almost say that you have a responsibility to keep running for others. There's folks that don't like, social media, which is fine, but let them see you running up and down Bayshore Drive or up Key Biscayne. That's enough. That's more physical social media. And then I would end with this about running specifically, and even other health matters, is learn to love it. Because if you fall in love with it, and I'm spinning something that Coach Bennett from Nike, I believe, says, if you learn to love something, your will to do that will never end, right? And I'm not saying you have to love all aspects of the sport and know who's the fastest and who's the slowest. I'm just saying, like, if you learn to enjoy it, you learn to do it with others at some point, that'll create this love for it, and you won't see it as a task and so forth. And you can apply that to just about anything else you do, because everyone says, oh no, the runner has a strong will. Well, strong will has an end point, right? But if you really love something, whether you love your wife or you love your girlfriend or whatnot, that shouldn't end. That's sort of infinite, much like you love your parents, the same thing. So.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said there for the creation of a habit, right? Everything I'm doing within the series is around the idea of health habits, and people always like to ask the question, how long does it take to build a habit, right? Do I have to run 60 days? Do I have to run 30 days? And I think that's a farce kind of a statement, right? It's, if something stops, then it's not really a habit anymore. And it's more so associated with the willingness to continue doing it because you fall in love with that associated activity, and it brings goodness back into your life in a certain fashion. And largely that's what I found with running, certainly, coming out of college, where I had a rough go for a number of years for XYZ reasons, that don't have to go into, but fell in love with it again after becoming like injured, and found that it was a place that I could go to for all the things that I mentioned earlier, whether it's for my mental health, obviously physical health, and all these other things. And so I think that's beautifully said. I think we do have a responsibility, those of us who have an active lifestyle, to ensure that at the very least we're showcasing that as much as possible as we can outside. And yeah, Frankie, coming up on time here, 45 minutes in. I could talk to you for another hour and a half, but I know that, as we've discussed today, you're a busy guy as well. I
have practice in the afternoon, so
yeah, the kids got to get back. Let me finalize this with one last question, because I think that a lot of people are interested in what you've had to say and want to continue to understand and follow you from this. If somebody wanted to follow you, what is the best way to do so? Is it on your Instagram? Are there other places that they can continue following what you're doing and inspiring?
Just about anywhere, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. I try to have a slightly different voice on LinkedIn, but I have all the social accounts under my name, so you can look up. Frankie Ruiz. If not, any of the run clubs. I mean, Brickell Run Club has a big page that we do a lot through. South Beach Run Club. All the run clubs, according to their neighborhood, have their own accounts, and those are either led by me or one of the pacers that runs those groups. And then I don't know. I think I'm pretty accessible. So if anybody needs anything, they can help directly. So feel free to reach out and just talk.
It was awesome catching up, man. Thank you so much for spending time. Can't wait to see the girls start to grow up and become crazy active. and running around alongside the team and you.
I have a little boy. I have a little boy.
I know.
On the way, so
yeah, it's so wild.
So it's gonna be a fun next couple months. He's due October 12th, so it's gonna be fun. But Guillermo, it's awesome to see what you're doing. Big shout out to all the Belen guys that I think might be watching out there, and everyone else that has paid attention to Guillermo all these days. I can't say I've watched everything you've done, but you're certainly catching my attention.
Too much.
But that's a good thing, Guillermo. Keep it up and definitely don't stop and say hello to everybody.
Yeah, I think we can finalize with that. Don't stop, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. So appreciate you spending the time and little lunch break. Thanks to everybody, especially the Belen crew that has joined. Shout out to Frankie and awesome guys. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day. Have a restful, wonderful week. Get outside and get to running.